So Larian Studios dropped a ton of information on multi-classing for Baldur's Gate 3 in yesterday's Update 21, which Sven then went on to say on Twitter is probably going to be the last community update for Baldur's Gate 3 before the launch of the game. So any final details we want to know about the game before it actually goes live on August 3rd is going to be pulled from this post. So they did drop a little tidbit about multi-classing during the panel from Hell recently, where they were like, hey, multi-classing is confirmed, but they didn't really say much about it beyond that until yesterday's update. And what I'm genuinely curious about here is the way they're doing multi-classing, because it's so different than any other Baldur's Gate game, let alone any other sort of CRPG or tabletop-based RPG that's come before, whether it be the Baldur's Gate series, Icewind Dale, Pathfinder, so on and so forth, Pillars of Eternity as examples. So let's dive into this today because I think this is very important for those of you who might be new to CRPGs, you might be new to tabletop gaming in a digital space, you might be new to Baldur's Gate as a series, or you might have played the first two games, you might not have followed along with early access, and you're going, wait a second, this sounds a lot different. So that's what we're here for. We're here to talk about all this and hopefully help explain it in a way that gets you ready for the launch of Baldur's Gate 3, which is just around the corner. Before we dive in, this is the part of the video where I get to say, hey, if you're new, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. We do daily streams. We do tons of content around Baldur's Gate 3 and other games like Starfield and Star Wars: The Republic and Lord of the Rings Online and Diablo 4 and pretty much any sort of RPG, MMORPG, etc. on console and PC. Plus, we do TVs, books, shows, all this other stuff. So we'll talk about that stuff. Elsewhere, check out the playlists, join the Discord. Let's dive into this newbie guide to multiclassing in Baldur's Gate 3, which is actually really, really exciting when you consider the variety of options they're giving you. So before we dive into the way they're doing it in Baldur's Gate 3, let's talk about the way it's been done in most other CRPGs over the years and how it was done in Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2, Icewind Dale 1, Icewind Dale 2, etc. Traditionally, in order to multi-class, there's generally some prerequisites involved. Sometimes those are stat-based prerequisites, like you can't become this class unless you've got this class already done plus this stat already here. So a combination of this would be like, oh, you want to be and this is not the factual stats. I'm just using these as examples. Let's say you started off as a fighter and you wanted to multi-class and become a fighter thief. You would need a dexterity prerequisite, and sometimes, depending on the game, you might need 3 or 4 levels in fighter before you're allowed to multi-class. It's not always something that's done from level 1. There's generally some type of prerequisite involved. And specialized classes, whether it's, I'm going to use a name, Eldritch Knight, as an example. Some of these classes in the past have required you to have a combination of 2 classes already leveled up before you can take the third. So there's a lot of that having gone on in the past where there was some type of prerequisites, whether they were stat-based or class-based, before you could take the next. They've gotten rid of that across the board with Baldur's Gate 3, which is really, really interesting. So now, instead of having prerequisites, there are none. Now, this opens up the door for a lot of crazy multi-classing opportunities. Now, I'm not personally a person who does a lot of multi-classing. I traditionally prefer to just play a single class all the way through because I like class identity and I like being able to just take that class to the fullest of its potentials. Because here's the thing, if you multi-class, you can become a jack of all trades and you can kind of get the best of 2 different things depending on those classes, but you're not always going to be the best at everything. You're going to become a jack of all trades, so to speak. But there are things different because there's so many ways that people play these games. What works for one player doesn't necessarily work for another. So if someone likes to play sneak, but they also want to be able to do, mage spells and cast magic missile and all that other stuff, then they'll go heavy into rogue for a few levels and switch over, maybe do sorcerer or wizard as an example, and take a few spells and then go back to continuing to level up in the rogue. But that's not the case here because there's so many ways to do things that instead of just picking a couple, you can pick all sorts of things. So you might decide that you like a couple of things from the rogue, a couple of things from the fighter, a couple of things from the wizard, a couple of things from the bard, a couple of things from this weird subclass and all this other stuff. You really have flexibility to do whatever you want here. What's really interesting to me is the part here where they say, remove the ability score prerequisites. However, Here we have each level, you'll be able to have the option to choose a different class to spend points on and begin building a bespoke multi-class character. Now, that is unique to Baldur's Gate 3. That's never been done before in especially previous Baldur's Gate titles. Because previously in the past, you were fighter thief, fighter mage, ranger cleric, which was a hugely popular build in like Baldur's Gate 2 and the Icewind Dale series. The ranger cleric was something that a lot of people loved because it combined a lot of interesting things. But here, there's 12 levels in the game, right? There's literally an achievement locked to this, which is amazing to think about. So they literally say that as opposed to only doing like a rogue thief or a rogue mage or something like that, you can create a bespoke multi-class character. What does that mean? Well, it says here, um, given the possible combinations, we recommend you have previous experience as a D&D player to fully leverage this feature. But should you decide to evenly spread all of your points into every class for no strategic reason whatsoever, you can do so, and there's an achievement for that. Which I think that's the thing to me that's mind-boggling is they've anticipated that some players are going to go out of their way to create really crazy builds, and you literally have the option to every single level decide that, well, this level I'm going to take a fighter, this level I'm going to take a rogue, this level I'm going to take a ranger, this level I'm going to take a sorcerer, this level I'm going to take a bard, this level I'm going to take a monk, so on and so forth until you've filled your entire 12 levels with all of these different classes and abilities that come with those classes. However, it is important to note with multi-classing that if you do it that way, you lose out on the higher level abilities for any given class. So I'll use a very easy example. A wizard, as an example, starts off at level 1, they can cast level 1 spells. As you get higher level, you can cast level 2 spells, level 3 spells, level 4 spells, level 5 spells, so on and so forth, depending on the level of your character. But the power of the spells and the level of the spells that you can cast as a wizard is directly tied to the level of your wizard. So you can't cast, as an example, 7th level spells until you're What's up, everybody? Time for the commercial part of the video, and the first thing we're doing is giving a shout out to all of our guild champions who are the highest tier memberships here on YouTube. Thanks to Ancient Entity, Babylonia Rising, Crazy as Relative, Mujin, and Remy D. Thanks so much for your support. And of course, thanks to all of the people who support here on YouTube as members. I appreciate it. Keeps me on the air full time. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. And if you too want to support the channel, you can join as a member. You can also do super chats on any live stream or premiere that you see, or super thanks on any uploaded video or YouTube short that you see. Don't forget the Discord. Let's get back to the video at hand. You're whatever, level 15 or something. But that's no longer that's something that you have to keep in mind, because if you want access to the best and most potent and most powerful abilities for any given class, you're going to need to take that class to its highest levels. If you choose to multi-class in the way that they are allowing you, you could potentially come up with a really crazy unique build, but they even specifically say here, if you decide to evenly spread all of your points into every class for no strategic reason whatsoever, you can do it, and there's an achievement for it, but there's no strategic reasoning behind it, because you're really not going to be good at anything. You're going to be like literally a level 1 fighter, a level 1 sorcerer, a level 1 this, whatever. But if you can complete the game, which you probably could if you crank the difficulty down to easy so that you don't have to worry about stats and fights and all that other stuff, it's an interesting thing for them to allow. So that's your basic newbie's guide to multi-classing. Not everyone's going to dig it. Some people are going to go, they want that ranger cleric build. Other people want that, bard monk build. People have these predefined multi-class characters that they really love from their tabletop games or from previous Baldur's Gate games or previous CRPGs, and they're going to want to see that here. Larian is allowing you to do that. Plus, they've gotten rid of all the prerequisites, and they allow you to go forth and create crazy builds with no strategics behind them whatsoever. Sounds crazy. It sounds interesting. And I think that's one of the things that's going to draw a lot of people to the replayability of Baldur's Gate 3 when you consider all the different combos you're going to be able to do with the multi-classing in this game. So that's a quick newbie overview on this. We'll know more, of course, as we dive into the game for real here in a little less than a month, so hopefully we'll see you there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update from my channel, and hopefully I'll see you in the next live stream and over in the Discord as well. Until then, stay safe, everybody. Happy gaming.